Welcome back to another episode of Bitfinex Talks. I'm your host, Ricardo Martinez. Today, my guest is Seth for Privacy, who is the head of strategy and marketing at Foundation Hardware Wallets. And I'm super excited to have him on here because Foundation is one of the most interesting and innovative hardware wallets on the market at this point in time. Seth, how are you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the invite. It's great to meet you, Ricardo, and really excited to chat through all things Foundation and all things really freedom tech today. So that's our big focus at Foundation, is building technology that really empowers you rather than technology that takes advantage of you, which is unfortunately all too common in the hardware and software space.
How about we start with that then? Let's talk about what adjustments Foundation has made, I guess, to embody this ideal of freedom tech.
Yeah, so Foundation's been around for a few years now. We started out in 2021. I joined the team in 2022, so a little bit later on. But the company was started really with the goal of making technology that empowers you, and really starting with Bitcoin as the base of that. The way that we describe Foundation is a Bitcoin-centric company, not because we deal with other cryptocurrencies, but because we view Bitcoin as the foundation of freedom tech. And we view it as essential, but we also think that there are a lot of other technologies that are really important down the line as well. So our focus initially is really Bitcoin self-custody, doing it in a way that's intuitive, that's beautiful, that's actually easy to use and straightforward, and really trying to make taking custody of your Bitcoin far, far easier than it has been in the past. There's been a lot of really good solutions out there over the years, but unfortunately, a lot of time in the Bitcoin space, it's brilliant developers building for brilliant developers. And so the actual end product isn't necessarily something that's built for the grandma out there, or the dad who's trying to build up an inheritance for his kids, or just really the average person who's not living Bitcoin day in and day out. But a person who needs Bitcoin to live day in and day out is really kind of our focus there. So that's the core of what we do. Our main products right now are Passport, which is a Bitcoin hardware wallet. Really easy to use, air-gapped, hyper secure, but pairs really nicely with whatever wallet you want to use. But we also actually create a mobile wallet called Envoy, which is both a mobile wallet and a companion app for Passport, which makes it really easy to use Passport on the go. Firmware updates. We have a lot of really cool, intuitive features in Envoy, and we've been putting a big focus in Envoy over the past 12 months, trying to build a mobile wallet that will be similar in approach to how we've approached Bitcoin self-custody for cold storage, but for your actual like daily spending, your amounts that you need to have with you on the go.
Okay, cool. I want to get into Envoy and all the features that you just mentioned here in just a moment. But first, I want to ask you, like, why do you think taking self-custody of your Bitcoin is so important?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, and I think unfortunately a lot of people view Bitcoin as this kind of purely number go up technology. Like, I have fiat, I have US dollars, and I see Bitcoin as just a way to make more dollars, which is totally fine for a lot of people, especially in the West. That's just kind of the approach that we take, because many people don't realize the need for actual freedom money. We just are looking for investments, especially in the US. People like me generally are coming from a background where we're looking for investments, a way to save up, store wealth. And if your approach is purely that of just making more fiat, a lot of people just fall into the trap of leaving their Bitcoin on an exchange, only using a Bitcoin ETF, which is all the rage these days, and really trusting a third party to hold onto their Bitcoin for them, which, if everything goes well and you purely want to sell back for more fiat in the future, potentially that's okay. But unfortunately, the history of exchanges, the history of custodians, the history of Bitcoin loan providers, and many, many different things throughout the space has been one of either intentional rug pulling, of just robbing users of their Bitcoin over time, or unintentional rug pulling, where either if they're hacked or something happens with law enforcement, they lose money, etc. And so a lot of people have lost their Bitcoin to custodians being malicious or messing up. And then on the flip side, the people who have actually taken those steps towards self-custody, a lot of times it's been too complex in the past, and we haven't done a good job of educating or building tools around it. And they can potentially lose money on their own as well. But far more Bitcoin actually gets lost through these custodians. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that your freedom, your ability to use Bitcoin or the wealth that you gain through Bitcoin over time, shouldn't be dependent on a third party. You shouldn't have to rely on an exchange or custodian to say, yes, you can send this money wherever you want, or no, you can't send this money because it's not an approved address. You really need to be able to do what you want with your money for it to be freedom money. And so that's the real goal of self-custody, is that you are finally in control of your financial future in a way that has never been possible with dollars. Cash is about the closest that you can get, in that cash you generally can spend wherever you want. You can hold on to it. But obviously with cash, your money, your monetary value is getting debased over time as governments print, that sort of thing, where Bitcoin, the monetary aspects of it are so vital there. But then taking self-custody really empowers you to gain the full benefit of what Bitcoin offers.
I agree with many of your perspectives there. Hardware wallets in general are not a new invention. I think Trezor maybe came out with like the first one like around 2012, 2013-ish, but Foundation has really kind of put a new spin on the hardware wallet. Do you want to talk about like some of the innovative features that you guys have included in the Passport device?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you're right. The Trezor kind of kicked things off. I think it was 2012 or 2013. You're right. That they saw the need for a way to better secure your Bitcoin, to not have to have it on an always on online device all the time, but be able to separate your private keys from your wallet itself. And that was a huge step forward, a really vital one. And I think everyone should be thankful to Trezor for taking that first step. But they haven't iterated much since then. Their products have remained very similar. Ledger launched a few years after that, and they've built a massive company out of, again, very simple, not very interesting, not very iterative products that are not intuitive to use. They're tiny screens, tiny buttons, 2 buttons. They're things where when you're trying to get someone to understand Bitcoin and then understand self-custody, you're having to go through so many extra barriers of entry when taking on some of these devices. So with Passport, our main goal really is to simplify that, as I've mentioned before. The way that we do that is we actually just use a familiar form factor. So if you actually look at a Passport, and I have one right here, you'll see on camera, it has the same kind of T9 keyboard that a lot of us grew up with. You're texting your friends, you know how to type on this. It's pretty intuitive. Everyone understands the basic navigation. And while it's not anything necessarily novel in form factor, that's intentional. Because a lot of times when you're coming to these hardware wallets, not only are you having to learn the ins and outs of Bitcoin self-custody, but you're also having to relearn this piece of hardware. It does things differently. It has different buttons. We wanted it to be very intuitive. And when you pick it up the first time, you understand, I need to type in my PIN. This is how I do it. It should be very straightforward. So that's one of the approaches that we took. The other one is that we want it to be very, very secure. And so we went with an air-gapped model, which essentially what that just means is you can't actually plug this into your computer. You can't connect over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi with Passport. It only is able to communicate with devices via either QR codes through a camera that's on the back of Passport, or through micro SD cards, where you can just insert it, put a pre-signed Bitcoin transaction on there, sign it on Passport, put it back. Or for most people, it's you go ahead and build your transaction as normal in something like Envoy. It gives you an animated QR. You just scan it with Passport. Passport will give you an animated QR. Scan that with your phone, and you're done. And that's what the whole actual signing and sending process looks like. And we wanted to make it so that you can have this hyper secure model, this air-gapped model, but not have to do a lot of difficult steps to be able to actually spend your Bitcoin. Because for a lot of people, they are just holding their Bitcoin. They're just sitting on it. They're not doing anything with it day to day. But for many people in the world, Bitcoin is not just a store of value, but it's also a medium of exchange. They want to be able to actually spend it. They have friends, they have family, they have vendors near them who actually accept Bitcoin. And so we wanted to make it as easy as possible there. So those are a couple of the main features. The other ones are really just that we have a large color screen, makes it easy to navigate, see what's going on when you're actually going through the UI. We have the ability to do things like have multiple accounts. So you can break up your Bitcoin into different buckets, like your KYC Bitcoin, your no KYC Bitcoin, or break it up into your spending, to your savings, to your inheritance for your kids, all on the same device, all on the same seed, but having them kept separate in different accounts to make it a little bit easier to actually manage your Bitcoin over time. And then past that, we have some more advanced features. We really want Passport to be something where a beginner can pick it up and use it. But if you're an advanced user, you can do things like gain privacy for your Bitcoin through Samurai Wallet or through Sparrow Wallet, where they have some really intuitive, powerful privacy features. And you can actually use those privacy features. And when you gain privacy through what's called Whirlpool, it's a whole nother topic, but you can gain privacy for your Bitcoin, and you can have it automatically send the Bitcoin after you've gained privacy straight to Passport without having to have Passport on you or do anything with it. So we've built in some powerful tools on top of the beginner tools. But again, the real focus is we want someone to be able to pick this up, use it, intuitively understand how it functions so that we can make it as easy as possible for the average person to self-custody. Because ultimately, that's the way that they benefit the most from Bitcoin.
Okay, cool. Thanks. You mentioned that Passport was Bitcoin centric. A lot of these other hardware wallet offerings on the market are multi-coin. Some offer support for hundreds of other crypto tokens. Does Passport offer support for other tokens aside from Bitcoin?
Passport right now does not. So like I said, Bitcoin centric, we definitely understand that people have a need for other cryptocurrencies, or they like using them. So it's not something that we're against, but with the current hardware, it's really only able to do one coin. There actually is a Monero firmware fork where some people in the Monero community, which is a privacy preserving cryptocurrency, are working to build a firmware for Passport that supports Monero instead of Bitcoin, so that you could use one or the other. But right now it's Bitcoin only for sure. In future products, it's something where we'd like to make it easier for developers in other cryptocurrencies to build in support. But it won't be something that we'll ever natively do at Foundation. Like I said, our goal is really to focus on Bitcoin as the core of freedom money. But we understand that people have use cases for other things. So we want to allow others to build that out more easily in the future as well. But right now, Bitcoin only is the actual function of Passport.
And then I guess another question I have about the hardware itself is the hardware like open source, or are you guys using like a secure chip that's closed source? Like how's that all work?
Yeah. So Passport is open source software and open source hardware. So that's another big focus for us is we want to make sure that everything that we do is open and verifiable, that anyone can build on what we do. You could go start up a company today and use the same hardware design. We can't stop you. We want it to be like that. We want people in the Bitcoin space and other people building hardware to be able to benefit from the things that we come up with, from the improvements we make, so that they contribute to the broader Bitcoin and cryptocurrency ecosystem. We think that's really, really important. So what that actually means is that the actual firmware that runs on Passport is open source. Anyone can go download it, verify it, build on top of it. And then the hardware itself is open source as well. What that actually means with hardware is that we have a pretty advanced certification that we've done things in a way where anyone could build the same hardware, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the actual chips themselves on the PCB are open. Unfortunately, it's just the case today with processors, with secure elements, that there aren't any open source options. So there's no way for us to actually have the chips on the device be open source, but you can verify that the way that they function is what you expect through the open source firmware. You can verify that the way that they connect to everything else on the PCB is what you'd expect through the open source hardware, the schematics that we publish in a very specific way for Passport. And then when it actually comes to using these closed source chips, we minimize the risk of potentially a backdoor or some sort of a malicious manufacturer by making sure that no individual chip has access to that seed when you create it. When you store it, the secure element doesn't have sole access to the seed. The processor doesn't have sole access to the seed, et cetera. So we try to do as much as possible to minimize the ability of any manufacturer to do anything malicious. And then we publish everything, open source it, and make sure that anyone could build on top of it or simply verify it if that's all that they want to do.
And then I like how you guys kind of stick to the Unix philosophy of doing one thing and doing it very well. Let's move on to the Envoy mobile wallet app that you mentioned. How soon can we expect it? And what capabilities will the wallet itself have?
Yeah. So Envoy's actually been out for quite a while now. We launched it as purely a companion app for Passport when we released this revision of Passport in 2023. But we've since just rapidly expanded because we really saw that there was a gap in the market for an easy to use, intuitive mobile wallet that makes onboarding to Bitcoin as easy as possible. So what that actually means is within Envoy, we take a few interesting approaches. The first is if you actually use Envoy right out of the box, you start to set it up, you can have a Bitcoin wallet without giving over custody to anyone else in about 30 to 60 seconds.
Wow.
And you can do that without actually having to write down a seed phrase either. So we do something that we call magic backups. Essentially what that means is that when you set up Envoy as a mobile wallet, and it's important to distinguish between Envoy as a mobile wallet and Passport as a hardware wallet, because this does not apply to Passport as a hardware wallet. That seed phrase is always on Passport, can never leave the device. But when it comes to Envoy as a mobile wallet, a standalone wallet where the private keys are actually on your phone, when you set it up with Magic Backups, what happens is the seed phrase itself is created on the device securely, just like any other mobile wallet where you'd create a seed. And then in order to save that, what happens is we encrypt it and we back it up, the seed itself, into either iCloud Keychain, which is an end-to-end encrypted storage by Apple, or Android Auto Backup, which is an end-to-end encrypted storage for Google. And that ensures that it's encrypted locally. The Apple, Google, they can't actually access the seed themselves. It's end-to-end encrypted. But it means that if you lose your phone, you can recover and get all your funds back immediately without having to do anything extra. And then for all of the data about the settings you've set up in Envoy, the accounts that you have, devices you've connected, all that kind of metadata about how you've used Envoy, all of that gets encrypted using your seed phrase. And then that metadata gets sent to our servers. But all it is an encrypted blob. We can't see anything about what it is, about how you use Envoy, any accounts you have, et cetera. And so only someone who has both the seed phrase and that file is able to restore everything on Envoy. And while that's not necessarily the approach you want to take when you're like storing your life savings, it's a really, really nice approach to not trusting a third-party custodian with your Bitcoin, but also having a really quick, seamless setup. And then the ability to easily back up the seed phrase separately as you kind of grow in your Bitcoin journey. And of course, when you're storing life savings, using something like Passport to have the private keys on an offline, very secure device as opposed to on your mobile phone itself.
And then you mentioned that you can use the Passport device with any wallet of your choosing, but are there advantages for using it with the Envoy mobile wallet?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Since we're the people building Passport and Envoy, it's going to have the tightest integration of any other wallet that you would use. Because obviously we're the people who know Passport best. We're the people who know Envoy best. So the coupling is really, really clean. And we've done a lot of work to make it as easy as possible. It also makes it so that not only can you use Envoy as a wallet, but you can use it to actually manage your Passport, update firmware, those sorts of things that you wouldn't be able to do in another wallet, mobile wallet, desktop wallet, et cetera. So the best experience we feel is Envoy, but one of the things that we love about the Bitcoin space is that you shouldn't ever be locked into a walled garden. You shouldn't have only one choice. You shouldn't have to use our app. So if you want to use something else, let's say Sparrow Wallet on desktop, which is an absolutely fantastic Bitcoin wallet, you can go ahead and use that. We have direct connections when you actually go to connect an account on Passport to a wallet. You just choose what wallet software you're using. It'll give you the instructions on what to do. It'll export the public keys in the right format and everything for that specific wallet and make it really easy for you to connect. And then if you want to update firmware, you don't have to use Envoy. You don't have to use our app at all. You can get the firmware directly from our site, directly from our support site, or directly from GitHub and install it manually by just copying it to the microSD card, putting the microSD card in Passport and updating firmware. So we wanted to make sure that people aren't locked in. We understand a lot of people have a specific wallet that they love using, and we want them to be able to just integrate Passport into their existing workflow if possible. But then obviously for new users or people who don't have specifically a mobile wallet yet, Envoy, I think, is going to be the best pairing there.
And then I guess with other hardware wallet manufacturers, sometimes they have like more than one model of their hardware, like that, they have like a base model and then like a fancier model. Is there only one Passport like right now, or do you guys have like multiple versions of Passport?
Yeah, for right now, only one model, just what we call Passport, but definitely new devices in the works. So we're excited to show some new things this year.
Nice. And then I guess my next question would be, is it only on chain, or do you guys also offer like support for Lightning or like other Bitcoin layer 2s?
Yeah, so right now, Passport as an air-gapped hardware wallet, that's only on chain. Unfortunately, there's not really a way to use that type of wallet with the Lightning Network right now. Envoy itself right now is also only on chain, but we are actually working on Lightning integration. And I think we have some really novel ideas on how we can pair on-chain, cold storage, and Lightning together in one wallet to make it really, really intuitive and a lot cleaner of an experience than exists out there yet. But right now we don't have Lightning support, but it is absolutely something we're working on. We already have it kind of designed and drawn up and working on trying to do it the right way from the ground up.
Okay, nice. And then I guess this question's kind of out in left field, but this year and at the end of last year, we saw a lot of new kind of innovations on Bitcoin in the form of like ordinals, stamps, BRC20s. I know you guys said you don't support other coins per se, but what about these tokens that are being launched on Bitcoin itself?
Yeah, for sure. So the firmware release that we just put out has full Taproot support, everything that's necessary for interacting with ordinals. So it's absolutely something that you can do today. There's not direct integration into some of the newest ordinals wallets yet, but we're actually already talking with a lot of the big wallet providers. It's simple because our wallet supports Bitcoin, it supports everything you need, and we already have integration documents and all this stuff. So we're working to help others. Again, like we've talked about, we're not going to build out ordinal support in Envoy or something like that. We're focusing on Bitcoin as money, but we want to help anyone who wants to build on top of that to be able to do so. So there is one specific wallet, I won't reveal any details, that's working on the implementation right now of integrating Passport into their kind of ordinal specific wallet. But we're excited for that. I don't think there's anyone on the team who actually uses any of that stuff. It's just not really our focus on Bitcoin. But we understand it's really interesting to a lot of people, and divisive as it is, we want people to be able to do whatever they want with their Bitcoin. And if they have a Passport hardware wallet, want them to be able to use it to secure not just Bitcoin as money, but also Bitcoin as whatever else the current rage is.
Awesome. And obviously you're Seth for privacy. Does Passport support privacy features other than partially signed Bitcoin transactions? Is there Tor support? Like what privacy features does Passport have?
Yeah. So that's absolutely the core of everything that we do at Foundation is really personal privacy. That's a big reason why I jumped in and joined Foundation, was because I saw that the team really actually cared about privacy. It wasn't just a marketing gimmick. It wasn't just something strange, but it was a thing that was really a core value of the founders and everyone really who works at Foundation. So how that actually comes out in products is Envoy, our mobile wallet. We have really strong support for Tor baked in. So with the flip of a switch, you can use the Tor network to do all of the connections within the app. We have really easy ways to connect to your own Bitcoin node. So rather than sending data about your transactions to someone else's Bitcoin node, if you run your own with just a toggle and entering the address of your Bitcoin node, you can quickly connect and not send any of that data externally as well. So those are the main things within Envoy. We're exploring some more advanced privacy features in the future for sure. But because there are some others who do that really well, we don't feel like it's something that we have to jump into right now. Specifically, Samurai Wallet is a fantastic tool for privacy on mobile. And then Sparrow Wallet is fantastic for privacy on desktop. And like I mentioned briefly earlier, if you use Sparrow Wallet and you use their mixing that allows you to gain privacy for your Bitcoin, you can do that directly with Passport as well, where you can mix in Sparrow. And then once you have a certain number of remixes, which just essentially means you've gained the level of privacy you want, you can have Sparrow automatically send to a new address on Passport without any direct interaction or anything necessary from you. So it's a really clean integration there. And again, we're letting the people who have already built these things out and who are doing it well focus on that while we focus on the broader aspects of Bitcoin usage.
Okay. And then I guess if I'm using Sparrow, like the coin control workflow would take place within Sparrow, and then I would just send like my mixed UTXOs to the device itself.
Yeah, for sure. And if the focus, like the base, I think, if in privacy for Bitcoin is coin control, that's actually something we've done a lot of work in with Envoy. So a big focus for us in a recent release with Envoy was trying to come up with a much easier to use coin control approach that makes it easier to tag things when you send, when you receive, keep track of the different labels that you've applied to coins, send specific coins, send specific labels, give you a lot of flexibility, but do it in a way that's pretty approachable and easy to use. So we actually do have really strong coin control features within Envoy itself as well, which is a thing that we're really excited about. It meant that when we launched that, I actually started using Envoy as my daily wallet. I don't use any desktop wallets or any other mobile wallets because coin control was the main thing that I really needed there. But yeah, I would recommend people definitely to check that out in Envoy as the kind of first step towards privacy in Bitcoin.
Cool. And then earlier in the interview, you hinted a bit about new devices later this year. Can you speak about like what you guys have planned this year, like on your roadmap?
So we like to keep things a little close to the
That's
vest.
why, yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes I want to leak a lot more stuff, but my CEO Zach he likes to be a little more tight-lipped about these things. So it'll be fun. The only thing I can say is no pre-orders. We're gonna have some devices that just launch and are all ready to rock and roll when the time is right. So we've got a couple things in the works for this year that we're really excited to show off in person at conferences throughout the year. That sort of thing.
Nice. And then are you able to give like a estimation of when people can expect those?
It's bold. Yeah, I would say, I mean, for people in the Bitcoin space, one of the biggest conferences of the year was Bitcoin Miami, and now is Bitcoin Nashville, as they've shifted into Nashville. And our goal is definitely to have those devices there ready to sell in hand for that conference, but hopefully sooner. But it's something where, yeah, it's hard to give estimates when it comes to software, let alone hardware. So I don't want to give too firm of a date.
Okay, cool. And then like, if I wanted to get a Foundation Passport, aside from the website, like where would I be able to purchase one?
Yeah, so we go to a lot of the main conferences throughout the year. Buying a hardware wallet at a conference is really one of the best ways to do it, because you can do it with cash, you can do it with Bitcoin. You don't have to give over a shipping address or anything like that. So there's a lot of added protection. So definitely follow us on Twitter at Foundation DVCS to keep up with where we're going to be throughout the year, as that's one of the best ways to do it if you're actually going to Bitcoin conferences out there. If not, we have a lot of resellers that we work with across the globe to make it easier to get Passport in countries other than the US, which is where we manufacture and ship from. So if you go to our website, foundation.xyz/resellers, you can see the other people who partner with us to sell Passport directly in other countries, which would be a good place to check out. We do also, for those in the US, we actually sell Passport on Amazon. It's kind of a thing we're testing out right now. So you can buy it directly on Amazon and kind of skip us if you want to. But those are the main options.
Okay, cool. And then I feel like there's probably a lot that I haven't asked you. What is something that I haven't asked you that you would like the audience to know about Passport and Foundation?
I think the biggest thing is just kind of the ethos behind the company. I think we've talked a little bit about kind of why we care so deeply about self-custody, but I think we've done some interesting writing, and I've really enjoyed getting to know more of the team, because there's a deep-seated passion within the Foundation team, not just to be a company that makes money, not just to be a company that sells devices, but really to be a company that puts it all on the line to build things that actually improve people's lives and that actually bring direct human freedom. Like that's really our goal in a nutshell, which I think some other companies talk about, but it's rare that it actually is the core of what they do. But in all the conversations we're having, we spend so much time on the little details, like how this specific button works or how this specific screen looks, not because we are trying to max the amount of money we're going to make, but because we don't want people to be turned off to the concepts of Bitcoin or privacy tech or just broader freedom tech because things are difficult or ugly or unintuitive. But we really do all that we do to make things easy to use, because we want people to, when they have that realization of something has to change, I need to be able to take personal responsibility and gain freedom for myself, for my family, for my loved ones. We really want that to have as low of a barrier of entry as possible, so that as many people as possible who come to that realization actually end up falling down the rabbit hole, taking actionable steps and really, really changing their life and changing the lives of the loved ones around them. So I guess that's maybe it. I know it's a little bit tangential and a little bit more philosophical, but I think that's important, because a lot of times you don't really get to know much about the companies who make the products that you use. But I think that's something that I've found so awesome about Foundation. It's why I'm here. And my love for Foundation has only grown as I've gotten to know the rest of the team better.
Nice. You already gave the website, but if you want, you can give it again. And then also, would you mind giving out like any social media links that you think are important?
Yeah, for sure. So we're on Twitter, or X now, as @FoundationDVCS. That's just short for devices. We're also on Nostr. If you look up I think it's @foundationdevices.com. It gets a little weird on Nostr to find things, but we also have our actual InPub listed on our website as well, so you can find it there. Outside of that, our website is just foundation.xyz, really simple to navigate to and read more about what we do, about who we are, about the products that we build, the services that we build. And those are probably the main ones right now.
Okay, cool. Well, Seth, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Monday to come on the show and answer all my questions about Foundation. It was awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Ricardo. It was a blast.